My name is Yasmeen El-Hasan.
Yasmeen El-Hasan, a Georgetown University graduate student, honors her maternal lineage here in this piece, An Ode to My Mother. Things come full circle for Yasmeen as she recalls sitting in her mother's Palestinian elementary school, where Yasmeen returned last summer.
An Ode to My Mother. The windows of my mother's old elementary school are lined with bars. It is a 3-minute walk up the road from her childhood home. A short distance, but at a steep incline, so that when I walk there, I find my breathing slightly uneven. The gate to the school is solid and heavy, but more striking, it is a faded pink, as if to distract from the fact that every time I open it, I have to put all of my weight behind me, and my breath becomes even more uneven. I go up the stairs past this gate, and I open up the pink doors to the classrooms with the pink walls, and I open the windows. I did not think about how these windows were lined with bars until I was much older. It was simply another reality of my summers back home in Palestine. Just like how I knew that I should not shower daily because water was limited, and how I knew that I should not be alarmed if the lights and power cut out at a certain hour because there's something called an electrical grid, and we don't control ours. And how the rumblings that kept me up some nights were not thunder, but rather the noisy trucks of soldiers that I listened to with my back against the wall, crouched under a window, lying to myself that the bars were protection. But during the school years, I was across an ocean so wide that it swallowed these memories and turned them into sprinklers to play in that seemed to never end. And a nightlight as bright as the stars we stared at when the lights went out. And there were no soldiers from whom to hide behind windows lined with bars. And Mama did not have to be my shield, but she did it anyway. When I open the windows, I sit down. The seat in which I sit is meant for an elementary school-age child, and it is uncomfortable, but I do not get up. I just sit and look at the windows lined with bars as I think about how my mother sat in this same pink seat, in this same pink classroom with the pink doors and the pink walls, staring at the metal caging, daydreaming about the bars that are thin and crisscrossed to look decorative rather than functional, and I wonder if they ever offered her the same facade of protection that I always tried to feel but only she could fulfill. Whenever I return, they tell me that I look just like my mother. Nasreen El-Sghiri, or the little Nasreen, they call me. The current principal of this elementary school is 2 grades below my mother, or was, and she tells me that my mother was always smiling. No one else smiled as much as Nasreen did, she tells me, as though it is an enigma that still confuses her. Even here, Nasreen would smile. I never understood how Nasreen was always smiling, she tells me. And you smile just like her. My mother does not smile the same when she is away from home. My mother and I, we argue a lot. And when we argue, there are no smiles. And when we argue, I forget about this classroom with the pink doors and the pink walls and the pink seats in which I sit and the windows lined with bars. And there are no smiles. My father tells me that it is because we are so similar. And I pretend to be offended. Nasreen El-Sghiri. She is feisty just like her mother, they say. At this, I smile. My mother and I argue a lot. but I know that she is afraid of losing me like she is afraid of losing her home. And I know that she grasps onto me as tight as she once held on to the bars on these windows in this pink classroom with the pink doors and the pink walls in which I sit, and that this is the same strength with which she wishes she could hold on to the roots of the olive trees by her childhood home that is just 3 minutes down the road, and she has so much to lose, but she is so afraid of losing me. My mother sacrificed so much for this dichotomous life that she has gifted me. In the afternoon, I close the windows. I say goodbye to the pink walls and shut the pink doors and lock the pink gates and walk down the road for 3 minutes to reach our house. It is a short journey, and yet I can't bring myself to pay attention to anything but the ground upon which my mother walked. And this short journey becomes the longest part of my day as I think of her smile and I retrace her steps. And the tears, my tears, join the tears of my mother that have spilled here before. This ground is fertile of rusted blood. When I get home, my mother will scold me, and I will smile. My name is Yasmeen El-Hasan. As a writer in the greater DC metro area, I actually don't work as a writer. I wish I got paid for writing, but I'm primarily a student and then I work as well. And writing is, whenever I have time, that's what I do, or what I wish I could do if I had the extra time. But DC is a really great place to be a writer, to be any type of creative, honestly. You don't even have to seek out the creative spaces, you kind of just stumble upon them. I first came to DC. I moved here when I was 17 for college. I did my undergrad at Georgetown, and I graduated this past May, and I'm now finishing up an accelerated master's program, also at Georgetown. So this is my 5th year here now. And so honestly, I came here primarily because of school, but I'm glad I came. So the piece that I shared with you all called An Ode to My Mother, it's actually part of a greater series. I submitted it as a final for a class actually last spring. And the series is titled An Archive / This Ground is Fertile of Rusted Blood, which is a line from An Ode to My Mother. And the series, the collection, honors my maternal lineage and explores the intersections of my maternal lineage and my relationship with my mother, along with my Palestinian identity and heritage. My favorite thing about being a writer or storyteller in the DC area is, like I mentioned, I don't have a lot of time to dedicate to my writing, definitely not as much as I wish I did, but it's really easy to just stumble upon creative spaces or other creative minds, and there are so many open mics. Like this opportunity, for example, I just came across. It was amazing, and I feel like most of the time, even if I'm not looking for it, I'll be able to find something or a creative space where I can engage in my writing.